I'm here with Tom Palmer, a children's author with several links to Hull. You do quite a lot of work in Hull libraries.
I do a lot of work in Hull, yes.
Yeah, you go to schools quite a lot.
I do. This year, I've been going to 4 schools a month in Hull.
Brilliant. And the Children's Book Award?
I presented the Children's Book Award last year, I think, yes.
You certainly did, yes. And were you there this year as well?
No, sadly, I don't think.
I
might have been. I don't know.
He was brilliant. I thought so. He was brilliant. He was brilliant. It's amazing to get so many kids reading.
It is.
Yeah. Now you've written a book about rugby in Hull.
I have.
Is it a coincidence that the Rugby World Cup's come to Hull, and you've got a book about rugby in Hull?
No, it's the foresight of Hull Libraries who knew there'd be a heightened interest in rugby league, even in Hull, which is normally pretty high on rugby, so to speak. And so they commissioned me to write a book about Hull in rugby, and we decided we're going to write a story involving both the main teams, so KR and FC. Now,
Hull, I think, is the only rugby league city with 2 teams. When you started doing your research for the story, was that the thing that grabbed you first, or was there anything else that you thought of before you came to write a story about that rivalry?
No, I mean that was the attraction, because immediately you've got 2 teams in the same. I mean, you've got 2 teams, but in other cities, but they're not Super League teams. So you've got 2 Super League teams, and that creates conflict. Because as I go around schools, a third of the kids support KR, and a third of them support FC, and a third support other teams like Leeds Rhinos. But there is because of the intense rugby interest in the city, it immediately sets you up with a brilliant conflict within a family.
Yes. Yeah. Now, that thing that you just told me, that there are kids in Hull that don't support a Hull rugby league team but support another team.
Yes.
That's quite amazing, 'cause I'm used to it in football. I don't think there's any Manchester United fans that live in Manchester, it seems.
Indeed.
That is amazing. So when you go around and you're talking about rugby with kids, how many kids are actually into rugby?
It varies depending on which part of Hull you're in, but I would say usually at least half, sometimes 99% are into rugby league, definitely, and a lot of them play for the local teams. There's a massive culture of rugby league here, which isn't the same as the other. I suppose Wigan, Warrington maybe, but they have that intense. They are rugby league towns, whereas somewhere like Leeds, there's a big football team, as we know. Although, I mean, there is in Hull, but I do find more people are into Hull FC and KR than City or Tigers or whatever they're called now.
Yes, are they going to be called Tigers?
Tiger City.
Yes, exactly. We're not talking about football.
No, sorry.
Right, but you are quite well known as a football writer as much as a sports writer.
I am mostly known as a football story writer, but I have recently written 3 rugby league books, and I'm currently writing 3 rugby union books. So,
I'm assuming you're a sports fan.
I am.
Football fan?
I am originally a football fan and always have been, and I've been to 700 Leeds United games, which I know doesn't go down that well in Hull, but we did help you get promoted. But having because of work at the moment, I've been watching more rugby league and rugby union, and I'm a little more confused about which sport I'm mostly into. I am mostly into football when it comes down to it, but rugby league and rugby union, because I've been watching Leeds Rhinos and Leeds Carnegie, is becoming more and more of a big deal for me, which I quite like. I find it quite refreshing because I've always been obsessed with football, but there are qualities to both rugbies that I enjoy more than football. But when it comes to it, football is the thing that I'm absolutely wired into emotionally.
Now, in terms of research and when you become like a thematic writer, Dick Francis,
indeed,
being somebody that kind of comes to mind, you do quite a lot of research. In terms of the research you do for football and rugby, which one is the one that is more demanding for you as a writer?
That's a really good question. I find football easy because it's all in my head and I know it. And actually, I've been pretty into football for 40 years, and I've been into rugby league off and on and less rugby union. So rugby is more demanding because of the rules of the game, because of understanding the rules and the culture of the game and not wanting to make stupid mistakes. But I have friends who are into both codes, so they help me weed out my errors, of which I make many. But otherwise, it's a similar. I set a lot of my books in foreign countries, so I've set a football book in Ghana and Russia, and I've visited those countries and found stuff out. In 2 weeks, I'm going to Toulon to research Rugby Union, and that'll be much the same. It's sort of getting a feel for a place, but it's when you're describing the actual playing of the game, because particularly Rugby Union, I find perplexing. Rugby League, probably because I've been to more Rugby League games and it's more natural to me. I understand.
I'm going to have to admit that I used to play Rugby Union at school.
Yes.
And it seemed to make a lot. I understand what you mean, because there's lots of things going on, most of which I wonder why people would watch Rugby Union. Even I love playing it, because most of the stuff, the most interesting stuff's going on inside the rucks and the malls.
It is, yeah. And Rugby League, if rugby's about tries, then Rugby League wins hands down, doesn't it? And Rugby Union seems to be more about not making mistakes, and you kind of lose because you've made more mistakes than the other team. But there's something about Rugby Union that is deeply fascinating. It's the rucks and the mauls and the finer points of it I find really interesting, and which is why I'm kind of enjoying writing about it. Unfortunately, my main character is a football player who is forced to play Rugby Union and becomes obsessed with it. So that's kind of good research in a way, that I am the same.
Now that is interesting, because one of the classic storylines in the canon of rugby literature, if there is such a thing,
the canon of rugby literature
is being a union player,
yes,
and then going to play league,
yes,
as for the back in the old days when union was amateur,
yes.
Which, I mean, if you had to choose and say, right, this is my favourite, this is the one that I'm going to watch for the rest of my life, would it be union? Would it be league?
That is a good question. Yes. It would be league, but I would regret not being able to watch union, because particularly the Six Nations and the autumn internationals, they have more power for me than international rugby league. But club rugby, it's more Super League.
Right.
But it would be league, because that's where I'm from.
Yeah, I can understand. I can understand that. I don't watch a lot of sport. The only sport, and my family definitely don't watch sport. So if I'm ever going to watch anything, it will probably be Six Nations rugby. That's a good point. I let them watch whatever they watch, kids telly or whatever it is they want to watch.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to the book, Interchange, really strong sense of place.
Really?
Yeah, it is, yes.
I'm absolutely thrilled you said that. Because I came to Hull a lot and I researched it, and I went to both stadia, even though they're not actually in it, as far as I remember. But I talked to a lot of people, and people from Hull read it. And so, for instance, the stuff around Bransholme Library, that was June Lightfoot from Hull Libraries who advised me on that. And so, but it's really good that has happened. Yeah. It's happened because I've got advice and because I did research, but that is the point.
Yeah, the telling thing is that you set it in Bransholme, because you set it in Greatfield Estate, then surely they're red and whites. You set it somewhere in Westall, like where I live, down the road from the stadium.
Yeah.
Then there are streets there where they used to paint the flagstones black and white.
Yes.
So and that was one of the things that struck me. And is there any? I don't know. You know more about football. I come from Sheffield.
Do you?
I know what it's like having two teams.
You do.
But I also know what it's like living 4 streets away from Sheffield United's ground and having a family that support the Owls. Is there any other place where you come from in the town pretty much defines which team you're expected to support?
Yes, I think a lot of places do, yes. I think Manchester's more Man City fans in East Manchester, I find, although it's changing now.
Yeah, because the joke is that it's the people that live in Manchester support Manchester
City.
City.
Do, yeah.
Everybody else supports.
Because Man U's in Salford, Trafford, isn't it? And Bradford, where I worked for a long time, the is it the South Side? They are Park Avenue supporters, even though they're Bradford Park Avenue and Bradford City and the other parts of the city. So I know someone from like quite near the centre of Bradford who hates Bradford City because he was a Bradford Park Avenue fan.
Right.
And so they are the ones that spring to mind. But being from Leeds, it's just. Although it's weird going back to Manchester now. I go to Manchester schools like really near Old Trafford, and you'll find about a fifth of the children say their favourite team is Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or Barcelona, which is just makes me equally as sick as it does when I come across a Man U fan in Leeds.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's just because
it is strange that we get into a situation now where the team that you support is not necessarily a local team, or you'll support your local team, but there's a little rider attached to that is that's the kind of team, the local team you support, but actually it's some major Premier League or Super League team that you support.
Yeah, and I do a lot of work in Huddersfield, and I ask who's a Huddersfield Town fan, and like at least 2/3 of the kids will put their hands up. But then if you ask them whose first team is Huddersfield Town, that all the hands will go down and they'll say they support Man U or Liverpool, and Huddersfield is their second team, which is peculiar. Whereas in Leeds, if they do support Leeds, that's their one team.
But there was a time when teams were made up of the local people.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the local blokes.
Yeah.
And now they come from everywhere in the world.
They do.
And they probably don't even live in the city that they're supposed to play for.
I agree. And TV, because we can watch any team we like now all the time.
You pay for Sky.
Yeah, which I don't.
Yeah.
But you can.
Yeah,
and also because people are much more mobile, so you get people from whose dad supports so and so, and he was brought up in Liverpool, and that's why the family support. So it's. I mean, you can't say you must support your local team, but it does sadden me.
Yes. Now, I know we described you as a football writer or a sports writer, becoming more and more a sports writer. Are you just a sports writer? Are you a boys' author?
That is a very good question. I'm happy to just be described as anything, but I make a big effort to put strong girl characters in my books. So the Foul Play and the Black Ops series have got strong, very strong, in fact dominating girl characters in them, but they are packaged and promoted as boys' books. But girls who do read them in the end like them. But I've got one child and it's a girl and she's 9, and it's really important to me that I am writing for her. And so I've got the girl characters. It's weird. If I've got boys and girl characters, the girl characters become stronger, which may be to do with my experience of women. Yes,
I think that's a fair comment on the fairer sexes they're known, which is wildly inaccurately known.
But as a football author, though, I am, in a way, I'm pigeonholed at the moment in that publishers. I've written books which aren't about football and they've not got published, but all the football ones I write do get published. So certain publishers will not publish stuff by me unless it's got football in it. So I'm trying to break out of that at the moment to spread my wings a bit.
Looking at your back catalogue, then it's like there are two things going on. There's the fact that you're writing books that can be perceived as encouraging boys to read, which I
don't deny,
a brilliant and noble aim.
Yes,
and I think there's. You kind of more of that, the better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're trying to open up a subject that is perceived as being a boy's subject to girls at the same time.
Yes. Very good.
Yeah. I've answered my own question, which is I've broken the golden rule of being an interviewer.
No, that is how it is, and but also not just to write about football, but to open it up into a spy thriller based around football. Like, for instance, the Foul Play books are about football, but they're about a boy who takes on nasty football chairmen, evil football players, football hooligan gangs, because he loves football, and anyone who is corrupting football, like all these villains, he takes them on. And that's what it's about. It's about how football has been corrupted by people who are after big money, and this is one boy who is a fan, not a player, who is taking them on. So it's about more than football, I hope.
Yeah. Now, this idea of engaging maybe potential non-readers through sport and engage them, again, like I said, is a brilliant idea. Something that I wonder as well, in addition to that, is kids that participate in sport, are there cultural and social skills and life lessons that come from just taking part in sport as well?
Yes.
But what are they?
Teamwork, sharing. I mean, I suppose, like, looking at my Football Academy books, which are aimed at younger readers, are about a team of players who play at a Premier League football academy, and one of them's a bully, one of them's really shy and avoids taking part in things, and through the series of 6 books, they get to understand what their behaviour leads to, and if they support someone, they'll be supported back, but if they're not very good with everybody else, they'll become an outsider, or anyone who is supporting them will only be supporting them because they're scared of them. And those things, I try to reveal those things in each book about a different character. So football is superb for that. Football is any sport, and my daughter goes to dance lessons and she does group dancing and things, and it's the same. It's working together and learning how to benefit from being part of a smaller social group.
Yeah. I was in a rugby team, and me and about 4 of them, guys in the rugby team, basically lost our competitive spirit. In my case, it was because I stopped getting any bigger and everybody else carried on growing, and I just couldn't make it in the forward. I was in the forwards as like a hooker and things. We went on and formed a band, and what was interesting is we replaced that kind of communal activity where we gained social skills with another community activity where we gained social skills and developed as people. Now, last and most important question. You wrote this book for the library and for the City Council.
I did.
Did you put in as a rider that you were going to get any tickets for the World Cup by any chance?
No.
You missed a trick there, yes. Me neither. I'm doing a video on the main screen in all 3 games. Nobody's offered me a ticket either.
Fortunately, I'm working on this thing called Try Reading, which is to do, and because I've been employed to blog about games, I've managed to get tickets for 12 games, including one in France and one in Ireland. So
that is amazing.
Couple of weeks,
brilliant.
I'm having to pay my travel cheaply, but I'm getting paid to go there and blog about it, which is like a dream come true.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And I'm very pleased about that.
Well, Tom Palmer, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The Reading Room is produced by Creative Projects Limited in association with the Hull Library Service.